Welcome back, everyone. So, last episode we worked on a little bit of Thaumcraft because we needed arcane pedestals. Aren't they lovely? Yes, we really did all that just for this pedestal. But look at this, its most important function. Anything put into the pedestal, which has a single inventory space, accessible by pipes, floats above it. It's a pretty lovely display. And we did all that work purely for the aesthetics of that display. But now it is time to make use of it. So, thinking about things, pedestals are going to be placed all about the room. We can place them now, I suppose. Each pedestal will hold the safari net containing a single mob. And the plan is pressing a single button found above the pedestal, like so. And I decided to use these Illumar buttons because they look pretty awesome. Although I might change the color and use a different color. Anyway, when we hit this button, it will add the mob that is in that safari net, and thus add that safari net into the mob spawner to allow it to spawn. Okay, so the question is, how are we going to do this? There's one more item I will need, and that is conduit facade. Okay. So, I have played around with this in creative mode a lot, because it's more difficult to do than you might initially assume. The issue here is that you need redstone signals to activate or remove the item from the arcane pedestal. At the same time, you need to make sure that you clear whatever is already in the mob spawner before adding something new to it. And getting the redstone to work to do that, and getting the items to be able to basically ping-pong back and forth between the grinder and their appropriate pedestal without interfering with the workings of other pedestals turned out to be somewhat challenging. But I think I have it worked out now, so I will show you how I do it. First, you'll need an item conduit and an insulated redstone conduit. And the insulated redstone goes up to where you will place the button. It has to be 2 blocks above the pedestal, because if anything changes at the block above the pedestal, for example, pressing a button, it will knock off whatever's on it. I think it must put a temporary block there or something. I'm not sure exactly how it works. And we may play around with this. We may actually put the button one higher than that even, because I'd also like a sign saying what's on the pedestal. Okay, we will also need an empty slot so that we can come and change the mode of the item conduit to in and out. For the insertion filter, you'll want to make sure that it's a whitelist and put whatever Safari net you want to be in that pedestal. So in this case, we have a Safari net containing an Enderman. Only Safari nets that contain Enderman will be able to come here to this pedestal. This is because we have the match metadata selected. Okay, now we will want to change what's happening with the extraction filter. And this is important. We don't need to change the filter because there's only one item that is going to be in this pedestal to begin with, and that will be this Safari net. But we will need to change how this works. Importantly, we need to set this to some color other than red. We'll start with green. Now, the way this is going to work, each one of the pedestals will have a different color, and then at some point ahead we will join them together and the color won't matter anymore. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Excellent. As long as you have fewer than 15, I believe, different pedestals in a row, you should be fine. And actually, come to think of it, you should be able to join up infinite. Just the placement of this uninsulated redstone conduit is going to differ depending upon how many pedestals you have. Okay. Things will become more apparent as we continue. So, we've changed the extraction filter so that the signal color must be green. Let's go here to the redstone tab, change it to in and out, and change the color to green. Everything's good so far. What this means is that when a signal comes down here, if it's in the green channel, it will activate the redstone, which will in turn activate the item conduit. There is one more change we will need to make, and that is to change the color on the insertion filter. We will change this to brown. Basically, when an item is taken out of an inventory, it can be painted with a color. And if that is the case, it can only enter inventories that have that same color selected. In this case, the insertion filter here has brown selected. So only items that are painted brown when they come out of another inventory will be able to enter this pedestal. The final step here will require the use of a conduit facade. So we put the conduit facade there, then we can place the button on it. When we hit the button now, it's activating the red channel. That is the default channel. We don't want that to be the channel that we're activating. So if we take out our wrench, let's eat, and then we can remove this from our hotbar. Okay. Take out our wrench so we can see through the panel. Right-click. Oops. We have to right-click on the side that's going to face the button, and then we can right-click there. We see that the mode is in and out, and we simply change the color to green, which, if you'll recall, is the same color we have here for this pedestal. Now, when we hit the button, you can see the whole thing lights up. And that would remove the item from the pedestal. If it had an inventory, it could enter. Alright, let's make that inventory. How am I going to do this? Okay. Yes, I will run it through the floor. Okay. So, the item conduit, excellent, is going to travel here under the wall, and eventually I will fill in all 4 of these walls, making this an enclosed space. For now, I've kept it open for ease of access while I'm setting things up. So all this mess will get hidden. But we take the conduit, run it under the wall. We can bring it up now. And there is where it is eventually going to connect. But before it does that, it will need to enter another inventory. We will also need to run the redstone conduit this way. And one more piece here. We will need both signals to continue under this wall. Now, the important thing is we need, or an important thing, I suppose. There are many important things in this build. We actually don't want this to be insulated conduit for a reason that will become clear soon. Okay, first, we're going to take care of the inventory. Now, we do not want this conduit to connect directly to the mob spawner. And that is because we want the item, in this case the Safari Net, that is leaving the pedestal to have a destination as soon as it leaves. So we will need an empty inventory to catch it and then pass it on to the mob spawner after that spawner can be cleared. So we'll use another pedestal. This pedestal will almost always be empty. But when the button is pressed, the Safari Net that is coming off of the pedestal in the room will land here momentarily before passing on to the mob spawner. To set this up, we need to first change the mode of this conduit. We want it to be both in and out, because again, we're going to remove from this inventory as well as place into it. Oops. We want the insertion filter to be green. This is because the export filter here is green. So the arrow leading out of this pedestal is green. The arrow leading into this pedestal is green. But the arrow leading out, the extraction filter, will be blue. We haven't seen blue yet, but this mob spawner, let's see here. We're actually going to set the insertion. Okay, here's the item conduit tab. we're going to set the insertion filter to blue. What this means is that any item that's taken out of this pedestal will go to the mob spawner. Then we simply need to connect this item conduit to the item conduit leading up to the mob spawner. Now, something that you might have noticed, and we can take a look at again, is that items coming out of the mob spawner are in the brown channel. You may remember the brown channel is the insertion for this, and in fact all the pedestals. And the Safari Net will end up in the right pedestal because of the filter we put there. Okay, so that covers the transport of items, but we still need to get the redstone signals right. And for that, I'm even going to remove one more one more redstone. Okay, so the redstone signal coming from that button is green right now. When we hit this button, it produces a green signal. And this one will be, I don't know, blue, brown, all down the spectrum. The only color we are not going to use on any of these is red. Although theoretically, I think we could, as long as only one of them responded to red. But anyway, we've got extra colors. I'm not going to chance it. The reason is because we are going to have this form an in-out in the red channel. And we will show the extraction filter is in the red channel. Also, we're going to want this to be active without a signal. That means it's always pulling out, except for the time when we've got the button depressed. What this means is that when we depress the button, the Safari Net will come down and up into this pedestal, where it will wait until the button has ended its pulse, and then it will get sucked out. And this will keep everything flowing and make sure that the duration of the button doesn't affect what we're doing. Okay, so the green signal is there. Here we need a red signal, and let's just double check. We should also need a red signal here. Okay, we are getting a red signal, and the extraction filter requires a red signal. Excellent. So everything past this line, and actually let's just quickly run this conduit so that everything will be connected momentarily. Okay, so that runs all the way up. The only piece that's missing is this piece right here. And for this piece, we are going to use an uninsulated redstone conduit. The reason we are doing this is because whenever a signal passes through an uninsulated redstone conduit, the whole signal always gets turned to red. So it was on the green channel, or the blue, or whatever, depending upon which button we pressed back there, which means that even though the redstone conduit is connected at this pedestal and this and this and this, the button is only going to work on the pedestal it is above. But that signal will get converted to red after it reaches this piece, and henceforth both of these will be affected by the red channel. This is the part that took me the longest to figure out. I tried to do weird things with timers or, I don't know, relays, vanilla redstone. For a while I thought I needed to use an OR gate, but this actually allows us to, within the Ender IO cable system, transfer everything to one signal and make it so that we won't get any cross-reactivity between our different pedestals in the main room. I am so happy that I figured this out. It makes everything very simple and just blows my mind that it works this way. I have been so impressed with the Ender IO mod in trying to figure out how to do this system. I just can't state that enough. It's just fantastic. I love being able to get all these cables into one block's width. I love the way the conduit facades work. The whole thing is just fantastic. And it's really like absolutely my favorite way to run cables now. And I'm actually going to change the way these cables run. I'm going to run them through the ground here so that they don't get in my way. But anyway, it's just crazy awesome. Okay, so now I have shown you how this works and set it up for one pedestal that will contain the Enderman Safari Net. I think it's time to test it. Okay, it is gone from here. It is not in this pedestal. There's only one other inventory connected, and Endermen are spawning. Awesome. One downside I have discovered to this system, and we'll see if it works, is that hitting the button over the pedestal again kind of only works intermittently to bring the orb back. Because while this button is depressed, you're sucking things out of this pedestal, as well as putting them in. Which is too bad. But what we will do... Ooh. Interesting. Okay. What we can do, potentially... Oh, and I guess I need to remove these bricks here. Seems they are preventing things from entering my vacuum hopper. Okay. Oh man, this noise is going to drive me crazy. Let's turn down the sound a little bit. Okay. So, what we need to do is run a cable that will allow us to turn off the system whenever we like. And for that, we can actually just take a button and place it anywhere we don't already have cables. So I'm just going to put it here for now, and then I can make that connect. That's in the red channel. So what's going to happen is, because it's in the red channel, it does not affect this pedestal. So the item can come out of the auto spawner and enter its pedestal. Awesome. So I now have this system working for one of our Safari nets. I also want to get it working for ghasts, and maybe hook up a few more of these pedestals. And then, yeah, I'll be right back once I've done that to show you what the room looks like after it's done. Well, by and large, here it is. I've put all of the mobs that I've caught into some pedestals. As you can see, I've still got a lot of room for more mobs. And if I so desire, I can expand to a second level up here at the balcony. So all told, I can have 40 mobs just using this system. There is one issue, though. Well, there are really two issues. First, I think I need to change the layout in my spawn room a little bit. A bigger mob, if it spawns behind... Well, okay. There's really no reason to save this for later when it's such an easy fix. So, when mobs spawn, if they're taller than 2 blocks, and they end up there, oh, of course it did. So if they end up at that spot, they were getting stuck behind the conveyor belt. So I'll just turn that, and that way they get moved a little bit to the side. Hopefully that will be sufficient. We'll test it. Okay. So let me show you 2 more of my problems. The first is that in order to change it from exact mode to non-exact mode, you still have to come in and click the button. I don't think there's a way around that. The only thing that could make it more convenient would be an Ender IO. I have one. The issue is I'm not sure where I would put it. You know, I could theoretically put it under the spawner. Well, let's see how that looks and works. What this allows is, if I right-click here, I should now theoretically have my view change to that area. But, as you can see, it's actually a super weird angle. I don't have real access to anything as far as I can tell, which is too bad. I'll see if there's a place I can end up putting this where it will work the way I want, but otherwise I'll have to actually go in to change that mode. Okay, that's problem number 1. Problem number 2, I have a solution, but let me show you what the problem is first. So, say we put wither skeleton into the spawner. It's not set on exact mode right now, so it's just going to spawn skeletons. That's fine for this demonstration. Now, say we hit the button that is exactly opposite. Carbonite Golem. What did you see there? You can see that we didn't actually get the wither skeleton back. And in fact, the skeleton is still in the spawner. We can clear that, hit that button, and it will come back, or it should. Okay, so one came back. The other should come back now if we hit that again. I thought. I don't know where that is now lost. Let's check. Back here. Okay, so... Oh, you know what? It could be, yeah, okay. Here's another problem I just now learned. Because of the way I have laid this out, and because I do not... Because all of these pedestals are not specified what goes in them, I'm going to get random balls going in them, random safari nets. I'll fix that off camera, but that's where that skeleton spawner, safari net went. But, okay, here's the problem I was going to tell you about. The two pedestals opposite from each other use the same color of signal, and what's happening is that hitting this button is actually activating both of the spawners. So what that means is that when the signal is going through this redstone conduit here, even though it turns it to red, as far as this later line is concerned, it also preserves the color information and sends it back along this route. I might have just been fooling myself. It might just be that red responds to any signal. Excuse me. It might be that red responds to any signal. So I will in fact need to go outside of the Ender IO mod in order to strip away the color information so it can't travel back this way. And to do that, I'm going to try one option before I try another. So, okay. One option, if I can get it to work. Oh, of course, that's there. That's fine. Okay. No, no, no. Okay. The option here is if I put a piece of redstone dust here. Oh, good. I think that might work. We'll test it, though. Okay. So, I just need to make sure all my item ducts are connected. There we go. Now all the item ducts are connected again. I can replace these stone bricks because I didn't actually need to remove them, it turns out. Okay, so let's double check to make sure this works. What should theoretically be happening now, all the signals should converge on the redstone dust here, which should actually mean that everything becomes red. Let's double check. Zombie pigmen. Zombie pigmen go into the spawner. Make sure they begin spawning. They do. Across from the zombie pigmen is the pink slime. Hit that button. I see what's happening here. And I'm unsure. Oh, of course. Okay, let's clear this. Okay, that didn't work. I think what just happened is because everything here is red, it's not working because it's only transmitting the signal on the red channel. What we can do, I think, if we replace both of those, with that redstone conduit. Now both of those should be transmitting on the red at that point. Okay, let's double check. Send the zombie pigmen in. One advantage is no matter where you put the ball, Safari Net going into the device, it'll end up in the right place. Okay, so now if we hit pink slime, okay, the zombie came out. That's awesome. That's exactly what we want. And pink slimes are spawning. Let's just double check if we hit that again. Oh, we happened to get the pink slime back. I don't think that will necessarily happen, though. This is the best way to turn off the machine. Okay, well, we solved some of the problems the machine was having. I also need to get more liquid storage because my system is completely full, so the vacuum hopper can't get rid of any of its liquid experience. Thus, the experience orbs are backing up. But yes, besides those minor problems, we now have a working automated spawner that can be controlled by the press of a button without the use of computer craft, which I am really pleased with. I've seen some computercraft setups where you can select which mob you want to spawn, but I haven't seen anything like this that doesn't use computercraft. Okay, we are well past my normal wrapping up point, but I figured it was worth showing you all the way through the end of this project. I'll obviously make a couple of changes to it as time goes on. I am going to, add some random bit to block any of the safari nets from entering the wrong pedestal until I get actual safari nets there. I need to go find more glowstone to make more Illimar buttons, which I think look so much nicer than just these random buttons. I'll also potentially, I think I'm going to change this out with another material here at the control panel, label some of the buttons with signs, and maybe use alternate levers, not the vanilla lever. I don't know. Anyway, we have all the functionality we need now, and I'm very pleased with that. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any suggestions for how I can improve this design, let me know. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.